Tri-Valley, California presents Chef's Corner.
Hi there, my name is Linda Wyner, and this is Pans on Fire. We are Pleasanton's kitchenware store and cooking classes for home chefs. Today, I am going to be introducing you to a couple of recipes that are particularly popular with our students. And one of them is a beautiful appetizer of smoked salmon with some white chocolate cream cheese over a bed of red onion marmalade. It's really yummy. And the other recipe we'll be doing for you is a beautiful pan-seared and roasted pork tenderloin, herb crusted. That's going to be finished off in a balsamic vinegar reduction, and that's going to be served with a little cappelletti and some fresh peas. So I hope you'll enjoy what you're going to be taking a look at today, and I understand recipes will be available. So Let's get started on that. I think the first thing we want to do is get going on the red onion marmalade. It takes about a half hour altogether from start to finish. And we need to have a fairly large skillet going. We're using one of our Swiss Diamond non-stick skillets. We like to cook not with Teflon, but we want to enjoy the non-stick finish of that pan. And one of the rules for any home chef is to heat the pan before you add any oil. So in other words, hot pan, cold oil. If you start a pan cold with cold oil in it, that oil is going to break down. It's one of the first lessons our students here learn. And we're going to be working with 2 red onions. So all we need is a little bit of olive oil and add butter. Whenever you add oil with butter, you get that nice butter flavor, but you also cut down on the smoke point of the butter, so we're not browning that butter. And notice how it just, with a nice hot pan, those oils and butters are ready to go right away, and we can start cooking the onions as soon as they hit the pan. And that's really what you want to accomplish for really good home cooking. Our goal is to cook these long enough that they caramelize a bit, and it won't take very long with a nice steady heat going on. But to encourage the caramelization, we're going to add a little sugar, probably about a teaspoon of sugar, and mix that in. When these get nice caramelized, we're going to be adding some red wine and some balsamic vinegar, and cook them until all the liquid has evaporated and the onions are beautifully caramelized, nice deep purple and tender. That's going to be our red onion marmalade. Typically you want to cook with wine that you're going to drink, so you don't have to go out and buy a $50 wine to cook with, but if you find yourself a nice $10, $15 bottle, use that for your cooking. I'm using a Cabernet. Putting in about a quarter and a half a cup of the red wine. And it's too bad you don't have smell-o-vision going on, because you get this wonderful aroma from the wine. And then about a quarter cup to about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half of the balsamic vinegar. We'll taste that, and just some seasonings, maybe some salt will go in there, and that will be our marmalade for our smoked salmon toasts. I only have half of one here, but this is perfect for 2 people. And what you want to do is, tenderloins are very low fat, very little fat on them, but they do tend to have a tendon that runs along the back. It's called the silver skin. And what you want to do is trim that off. Very simple to do. Just take the tip of your knife, run it right under that tendon, and tease that off the meat. Leave the meat behind. Taking off that extra bit of fat with it. And there's one more bit, this little seeds that we're going to be using. Here's one more piece of that tendon, and you'll see how easy this technique is of trimming the pork tenderloin. That tendon, if you don't remove it, will cause the meat to shrink up and actually curl up a little bit, besides which it's really hard and it's not very good eats. So we have this beautiful pork tenderloin. It's ready to go. We're going to go ahead and put a little salt on that. We use kosher salt here at Pans on Fire. Get a lot of good flavor without a lot of extra sodium, because table salt's a lot finer and you have to use more to get the same coverage. What we want to do with this is create an herb rub. We're going to be using some fennel seed, which is you see this on pizzas. It's very common in Indian cooking too, although this is not an Indian dish. And some coriander seed. This is the seed that you grow cilantro from. And so we're using some coriander seed. We're also going to be adding some ground ginger. I don't like fresh ginger in this recipe. I like ground ginger in this recipe. I'm going to put a little bit of that in there. And we're not going to add any more salt because the meat's already been salted. We are, however, going to add some pepper. And I have some nice fresh sage here. And I want to take a couple of these leaves of sage. We're going to roll them up just a little bit together and make a chiffonade out of them, which is to say, when they're rolled up and we slice through them, what we end up with are nice long strips or a chiffonade of the sage. And once we have our chiffonade, we simply come back over here and mince it up. We want this nice and fine. So we're going to add that to a little bit to our mix, and we want to muddle this or grind it. Now you can put this in a food processor or a spice grinder, but I happen to enjoy taking out some of my aggressions by using the muddler. So I simply put it in here and I go ahead and press down on this. And I'm not concerned about making this all into a powder. I'm just interested in trying to make it so there are some parts that are powdery and other parts that are still intact, and that's fine. It's going to give us some nice crunch on the outside of the pork tenderloin. And typically what you would do on the pork tenderloin is rub it with the herb mixture and maybe have it rest for about a half hour. And at room temperature is good. As a matter of fact, I really recommend cooking meats at room temperature. You only have to do it about a half hour before you're going to cook them. That way the heat of the stovetop, the pan, or the oven isn't fighting with the nice cold interior of the meat. So you see how we've just done a nice light coating, and we're heating the pan up to about medium high, again that 3-second rule. I'm going to add just a little bit of olive oil, not even a tablespoon, probably about 2 teaspoons. That's going to heat up quickly. You always know that olive oil is heating up because look how quickly it runs around the pan. So we don't need to do any more heating on that. Pork roast, or the pork tenderloin goes in there, starts to sizzle. And what we're shooting for is to get nice browning all the way around this pork tenderloin. So about every 5 minutes we're going to check it. So after about 20 minutes it should be fully browned. And after that we reduce the heat and leave it in the pan and allow it to cook until it becomes an internal temperature of 145 degrees. We're going to take it out. We're going to rest it for just a few minutes to let the juices redistribute in that. And meanwhile, we'll take that nice pan and all the wonderful brown bits that are in there and make up the balsamic vinegar reduction to go with that. I wanted to show you the searing process on the pork tenderloin midway through. We've had this here for about 4 minutes, and look at that nice brown edging on that. That's what we want. We're going to be browning this all the way around. A total of about 20 minutes, as I mentioned earlier. So we'll come back to that and see how it progresses.
For more information on the restaurants featured in this month's edition of Chef's Corner, go to www.ourrootsareShowing.com.